Good evening. Prison Fellowship Barbados. My name is Mary Allison Allett. Most of our leaders, we have a very small ministry, but most of our leaders are, I would say, pastors, very, very involved in their churches. Even if they're not pastors, they're very involved. Yet, I'm wondering, why is it so difficult to get churches involved in prison fellowship ministry when the very leaders in the prison fellowship are pastors and leaders in the church? And we are having a very difficult time getting people in the churches sensitized and really having a love and a commitment to go into the prisons and to work to help rehabilitate prisoners. Can you help us?
Thank you, Mary Allison. That's a good question. I think we all wonder why the churches aren't more involved. And I'm going to ask Greg if you would maybe take a run at it.
Yeah. In our situation, we have similar dynamic in the United States. And I think the thing that we've come to realize is that, at least in our culture, we're not going to get senior pastors or executive pastors or pastors of churches, by and large, to really get involved. They're way too busy, way too concerned about their own personal ministries and mission and vision and what's going on in their local context. And so for us, it has been really about identifying the particular champion within a given congregation that has a real passion and a call for prison ministry. Mm-hmm. God definitely does place a call and a burden on different people for different things. And not, I think sometimes we have the attitude that everybody should be concerned about what we're concerned about. And clearly, that just can't be. If everybody were concerned about just prisoners, then what would be happening with the homeless and what would be happening with HIV/AIDS victims and what would be happening, on and on and on. So God calls all of us to different things at different times and seasons of our lives or for a lifetime. And so we look at the pastor really as a man of peace, that man who will open the door of his congregation, who may be sympathetic to the plight of prisoners or ex-prisoners or children of prisoners, but isn't going to directly be able to really affect anything personally, but is willing to open the doors of his congregation for us to come and share and speak and give people in the congregation an opportunity to respond if God's calling them to, and then identify that champion, that potential leader within the congregation who's going to be the person who really helps lead the ministry out of that church.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have a thought on why churches don't get more involved in prison ministry?
Just thinking of our own stories, we've probably all got a story about how we got involved, and if we go back to that, God grabbed our hearts, didn't He? And our hearts light up when we get to prison gates. We're very odd people, but it happens in funny ways. So maybe we need to tell our story a little more. There are those who tell the story of it. We work with colleagues in England who specifically try and do this. They try and get the churches actually ready for the ex-offenders. And at the same time, you can galvanise them to perhaps come into prison. But as you say, it's not everybody's bag. And I think it's a real calling. So you have to work. Yeah.
Well, whether it is the clergy or the layman, one should know that when he or she comes to the board or the committee or into the level of leadership, he or she is not coming for a decoration, to play a role. And the role, first of all, in the family or in the place of work, that may be the church or any other. And so when I come into the committee or the board, if I don't understand the vision and if I cannot share it in my family and in the workplace, I think this sort of situations will arise. So what we need to do is that, first of all, before a particular person is taken as a member, we need to find out he or she has a vision or not. This is very vital. And the selection of the committee members and the board members is very important. Then secondly, what we need to do is that, I do not know whether it is practical in other countries, but in India, what do we say is that everyone who would like to be a member of the national board or a member of the provincial committee or city committee must bring a letter of certification from the clergy stating that he or she is an active member and he or she would like to take some time in his or her church to promote this cause and this vision.
Good for you. Good for you.
We can do certain measures like that. So it is not a decoration. We have a role to play.
Thanks. Ian, did you have a thought?
Es un tema muy difícil.
It's a very difficult subject because it's in the border of the policies of the politics. I'm talking about, and I refer to my church, which is the Catholic Church, and I find that a lot of the guilt, if there are no more priests or clergy in the prison field, it's our own fault. Because which we take to the prison, because our work in the prisons, as well as that of the CCI, is one of the best kept secrets. We don't go out to preach our mission. We don't preach our achievements. We are just with the criminals, with the murders, with the disasters, but not with people that have been back with the dignity. So I believe that this national ministry should face a more effective job of information for the clergy. And also, as well as the volunteers, the priests, the pastors will feel touched by this call of God, as we all have been touched to this call. So I believe it's a little of lack of communication, lack of motivation from our own side towards our priests and pastors.
It's our fault.